Hey guys, welcome back into the show. Dan Hafner here. Another exciting episode. We are talking with Kuber Jain. He is a part of the analytics team, leading the engagement and retention efforts to drive product growth at none other than Headspace. I'm a huge Headspace app user, so I'm very, very excited to talk to someone who's actually there on the team working with Headspace. He's also been at companies like Asana and DocuSign. So he has a lot of insights and a lot of really cool information and just tactics inside of science, retention, data. Really, how you turn these things in your analytics into the product-led growth that you're actually wanting for your SaaS or your application. So, without any further ado, here's the episode. Have fun. Hey, Ben, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Bay Area, California.
Gotcha. It's probably a lot warmer there than where I'm at in
Yeah,
Pittsburgh today.
it has gone better last few days.
Nice. Well, welcome into the show. Really appreciate you coming on. Um, so let's dive into this. I'm curious. You currently are at Headspace, which was kind of like one of the cool hooks I think of wanting to talk with you, as we kind of were just talking about before we recorded. I'm an avid user of Headspace for the listeners out there. I've used Headspace for, gosh, I think I started back in like 2017, 2018. So I'll have to go back and look. I'm almost at like 50,000 minutes meditated or something
Wow.
like that. But I will say they do count like those like soundscapes that are like an hour long or something as meditated minutes. So I don't know if I've done all that much, but the Headspace app is, I've always loved it as a model of like, what a great app. Like what a it's fun to use. It's easy to use. It just feels good. There's very few apps that I actually use on my phone, and I have like pages and pages of apps that I'm like, man, like I love this tool. Like I absolutely love it. So, and I know you probably weren't someone like that was. I don't know. Were you involved in the building of the actual app at all by chance?
No. So I
Okay.
started with Headspace like almost 15 months back. So
Okay.
pretty recent. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so definitely not there at the beginning or anything like that. But yeah, so I'm not trying to like I know you can't really toot your own horn of like, yeah, I built this kind of thing, but so tell us a little bit about what you do specifically there and then we'll just go from there.
Yep. Sounds good. Yeah. So as I said, I've been with Headspace for just over a year now. So I am currently working as a senior data scientist at Headspace, focused on product analytics. And what that means is basically trying to do analytics uh, behind the users who uses our app day in day out, and trying to see like how they're engaging with us, how can we get better at recommending content, how can we make sure that they're finding value in terms of like uh, help them deal with like stress, anxiety, sleep, depression, things like that, and then just like trying to just keep improvising the app based on like what the user needs is, and how can we make sure that we serve to our mission, which is making sure that everyone has space or access to like the whole repo of content which can help them get out that stage.
Very neat. Very neat. So my first question for you is, I love this. I love this topic of data analytics. But I don't think I've had anyone on that we've talked about this specifically. Like, so I'm excited for this conversation. But um, so how do you make that link between um, hey, this is what the data shows of app usage, or like, well, so for example, like in a lot of our client apps we have like a backend that shows kind of the locations by country of where users are coming in, so you can kind of see concentrations or whatever there. But then there's also time in the app, 0 to 10 seconds, 10 seconds to 30 or plus, whatever. And then there's also you know type of device that's used, whether it's Apple, whether it's Android, what type of, is it iPhone 12 or an iPhone 16 or et cetera. What do you do? How does that all translate into like useful information in terms of like, I see there's more iPhone users than Android users on our app, but I also see that there's more people in the UK than there is in the United States. Like, that's weird. Like, how do you translate all that into actionable information?
Yep, great question. So some of the things that you mentioned is basically what we do when we segment our data. So let it be like country, device, platform. So those are some of the things that we like slice our data by. And when I talk about data, it's primarily exactly what you said. Like, okay, how much content they're using? Are they using like Sleepcast? Are they using meditation? Are they taking like surveys which help them understand like the stress levels, or are they just doing like a very standard like breathing exercise, right? So when we look at those data, we try to see like, okay, like how habitual our users are in terms of like coming back every single day. Because uh, if there is no motivation to come back to our app, then it's not serving you, not it's not serving us, because the whole idea behind mental health is just to be able to have that motivation, and be like how that helps basically improve your health, right?
So the
So
returning
we
user statistic is
exactly,
very important. Okay,
exactly,
got it.
exactly. We give a lot of focus on like uh, gymming, exercise, what you need to eat, what you should not eat. But there's also that aspect of like how your headspace is, right?
Yeah,
Like,
makes sense.
so that's what we do, and then we're just trying to think like, okay, what can we do better to make sure that users come back to our app, right? It could be a very small change in the app user experience, or help them trying to find what they actually need. So things like that.
I like that. There was a gentleman I had on, I believe it was I think it was Mr. Layfield, I believe is who it was, that we had talked about, a bunch of different things, and he brought up this idea of, the North Star metric. I apologize if
Mhm,
I'm getting that wrong, to if you are listening out there, if I
mhm,
got it off the wrong host. But we talked about this North Star metric, and it was like, okay, when we think about what's the main problem we're solving, or what's the one main thing that
mhm,
we're going for, that all of these other things, it's kind
mhm.
of like the one thing, if you've ever read
Yep,
that book, which
yep,
is a great book. And I kind of like that. So like I like that the returning, I think there's a term DAU, right? Daily
yeah.
active
Daily
users.
active users, weekly active
Yeah.
users, monthly
So
active users.
that seems to be like kind of like that North Star metric for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's pretty common for business like us. Let it be like Spotify or Duolingo. You can pick any of those apps, and you will find this metric being like very consistent across the industry. Because eventually, what we want is just like make sure that users are actually being active in the app in terms of like finding what they need, using what they need, and then just that translates to like the other things that go beyond that.
Yeah. Okay, so give me an example. Like give me an example of like something you'll go through, and you're digging through the data, right? And you find, wow, like there's this statistic that there's a lot of drop off when it gets to this point, or
Mhm.
there's maybe we have people who download the app on a Friday are less likely to come back because it's the weekend and they're busy and they're doing other things. Or like, what's an example of like something that you've noticed that, maybe not like proprietary data, I'm saying, but
Mhm.
like what's an
Yeah.
example like for someone who has an app, right? Like
Mhm.
if I'm trying to use analytics to then drive more downloads and more growth, like what are some of the things that you can notice in that can then help you towards that North Star metric?
Yep, great question. So I think for us, again, as I mentioned, right, for any users, like let's say if it's a new users come in, we want to make sure that they are active in their initial days, like initial week, to be able to maintain that behavior. Because if the user is not motivated to be able to use the app in their initial phase, then it's going to be like most like a tire kickers, where they just come in maybe from a marketing channel or things like that, and then just don't use it. So the early behaviors of how users engage with our app is basically like basically translate to like if they're going to be ret- retained after a year, like meaning like they'll be with us a year from now, and so on and so forth. So I think that is very important for us. Like when we just look at, okay, what are some of the signals that we like understand, and how can we make sure that like, okay, if users are not doing that, right? Is it because like, is there something that we could help users in the app, like maybe, oh, maybe you should not navigate this way, maybe we can have some like kind of like a tutorial to be able to say like, okay, if you need this, click on this and search and like find your content, or if you need to just like save a content, then you just do these other steps, right? So all these things that we try to do to make sure that users are guided in a way where they can be helped.
So it's a little bit like reading between the lines, kind of in a couple of ways, I guess, huh?
Yeah, like read between the lines in a way where like just that early behavior, I would say, it's
Yeah,
very crucial for us. Uh,
yeah.
because otherwise, like, um, it's very hard to like draw that line where we also have like some of our like power users just like you, right? And then we have like new users like who, and with the shift in the market going on with the AI disrupting almost every industry, so it's like very, we have seen like people are using chat gpt for like, okay, I'm feeling this way, can you help me, right? But there's like element that may be missed in terms of like how that conversation happen, and then how the users is guided in terms of making sure they have the right resource in place for to be able to like help them.
Yeah, I mean that kind of leads me into my next question that I had was with AI. That I mean that's a good transition.
Yep.
There are I know the Headspace app does have, I believe it's called Ebb
Correct.
now, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So there is some embedded AI in there and such. But yeah, like you said, there's probably, I mean, this stuff is disrupting a lot of different markets. There's probably a lot of ways that, and there's been stories that people have tried to use these tools
Mm,
and for mental health stuff, and then they've failed them, and then actually encourage them to actually go the opposite way, which is a whole nother story in itself. I don't want to get into,
mm,
but yeah, like how, I mean, I guess like in terms of that, like how can you use um AI tools and different things that are out there
mhm.
to kind of get better results from what you're trying to do. I mean, I know you can just kind of export and upload and do different things, but is there any other cool little tips and tricks that you use AI with?
Uh, so like the usage of AI is just like on the product side of things, as you mentioned, right? Like we launched this app, right? But internally for my workflow, I definitely use. So I don't know which part you want to navigate or talk more about.
Sorry, say that again.
You want me to talk to like any specific side of things, like the product side, or it's more like how I use internally for my role?
Um, yeah, even internally for your role is helpful,
Oh,
I think too. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think internally for me, like I think almost all roles now have like access to like chat gpt or like Claude or things like that. So for me, I think being like a data scientist is mostly, for me it's more about like how can I get better at like, okay, I can do the analysis, but how can I like frame it in a way where like it's easily understandable by the stakeholders, by the leadership team, right? I think that's a big component where I use AI, because of course like I've been coding for a long time now, so it's not just that like, okay, I can just ask GPT to code, but it's also like sometimes help fix the code, or if I'm not trying to find the right the error, then it's more like, okay, maybe that's the way to go. But I think it's more about like formalizing, communicating, and structuring in a way where I present the insights to stakeholders and leadership. And on the other side, I think for Ebb, yes, we launched Ebb with the purpose of that, like where uh, there's like a huge demand for like apps like where people want to be able to heard and seen and being able to reflect on their journey. So I think that was a motivation behind launching apps in terms of like, okay, what if we have something where you can just think of it as like more like a journaling kind of thing, right, where you write down your thoughts and then it basically processes information and then just gives you like the right direction. um so I think that's how we thought about AI, and there's like more to come in terms of like how we improvise on that and how can we get better at like more recommendations, etc.
Mm. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But so yeah, I mean, I guess to pull on that thread a little bit there, when you're presenting things to leadership and things like that, one thing that I've always, and I think it's kind of a buzzword. It
Mm,
used to be, AI has not made this any new, but like
mm,
the value is in the data, right? Like the data is what's valuable. There's a recent story. I don't know if you've been following the whole Anthropic Pentagon
Mm,
drama thing.
mm,
For those of you who don't know, there's a big duel going on. Like Anthropic is limiting the data and the usage that the government can have because they're like, you can't spy on people, and then the government's
mm,
like, you can't tell us what to do with that, even though it's your stuff. So it's but that's a very interesting story because it brings to light um this whole concept of like the data is the power. Like it's really, really, kind of incredible. So like I guess where I'm going with all that is um what is the real like business power and leverage that comes with like data analytics. You know what I mean?
mm,
Because like when some people go and they say, "Hey, I want to build this app and I want to go get funding. I want to get an MVP so we can go get funding," and a lot of
mm,
that's based on the idea, the future
mm,
pacing of like, "Hey, this is
mm,
how valuable this
mm.
Headspace app is going to be," as opposed to like we have data that backs up like how many daily users we have, what kind of AI they're using, like all this different stuff. Like,
Mm.
what's the difference between those two?
Yeah, great question. So I've been in this space for like over a decade now, and I chose this because I know like how data could be valuable like going forward, right? So the one mentality that like we can get rid of like with data being there is just like more intuition based versus like evidence based, right? Uh, because if you're intuition based, you can just make up something number and say like, oh, we saw like 5% increase. We assume that okay, if we do this, X and Y going to happen, right? But there's no like rational behind that, right? So when you bring in data, now you have like evidence, right? In terms of like, okay, when we this a experiment, we saw that our daily active users increased by like 10%, right? So you have some like bandwidth to be able to like iterate upon like different kind of experiences that we try to build, and then see that if it's actually helping people or not. Otherwise, like you only have like so much time to like run those experiments, make those changes, but eventually you want to make a like a measurable readout, or we say you're like an outcome based measures in terms of like okay, whether does it helping users with engaging with the app or not, right? Because if it is not, then it's no use of them, right? So, and the other part of that is like when we have like all these surveys as part of our like app as well, like stress, anxiety disorders, like it's not that just like okay, you take a survey and then you're done. Like it's all about like okay, when you took the survey, like this is how you were scored, and like once we connect you to like a therapist or a psychiatrist, you would see like okay, we'll also give you like a post survey in terms of where you can like measure or how your score have changed over time in terms of like making those sessions more effective. So it's more about like measuring that outcome rather than just like giving like a simple guidance of like, hey, you should see a therapist. It doesn't work that way. Like we need to be able to measure to be able to help people understand like the value that they're getting from the app, uh, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, if it doesn't get measured and doesn't get tracked, it's not gonna improve, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And
Right?
otherwise, you can just make claims whatever you want to make, right? It's not like it's
Yeah.
not helpful for you. It's not helpful for company. It's not helpful for anyone, right? So very important to be. There.
I don't wanna have you reveal too much, I don't want you to lose your job
Mm,
either, but, can you do you have any insight on, like, uh, is Headspace pretty ruthless when it comes to those data-driven decisions? Like, if there for example, if there's a new feature that's
mm,
launched or a new initiative
mm,
that's launched,
mm,
then they come back and they see, okay, the data's there, let's cut that, or let's give it some more time. Like,
mm.
do you have any insight, or are they moving fast? Are they tweaking things, or is it kind of more of like a laissez-faire kind of see what happens kind of approach?
Yeah, so we do iterate upon like constant experimentation, right? And uh, it's not that we just launch something because we think it is right. It's again like whatever we launch is basically measured, tested, and experimented, and see like uh, what did we actually intend to improve, whether it was like daily active users or whether it was like an engagement with the content. And once we see the results, if it's like statistically significant or not, based on that, we take a call in terms of like, okay, should we go ahead or not? So that's like more technical in terms of like when we do like think of an A/B test, we just have like certain analysis or like threshold and like kind of segmentation done to make sure that once we do this experiment, we are able to like measure it in a way where it's not biased, it's not stratified in terms of like, and it's not more like focus on a specific demographics. Like, so we just try to make sure that we capture all these caveats and then do certain launches.
Okay. I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. Um, okay. Well, one other thing I wanted to ask about was, maybe I'll get to learn something here that I mean, I've already learned some stuff, but I'm saying like, so there was this idea I kind of had back when I was launching my very first app. And then I've kind of implemented it just as I've gone along with other client apps and other apps that I've launched. But
Mhm,
what I did when I first got an app on the App Store, right?
mhm,
I kind of was like, well, what if we kind of treated it like a funnel, right? Of like maybe a website kind of funnel, right? So there's going to be impressions of how many people actually see this app, right? Now, out of those, there are going to be only a certain percentage of people that actually click on it to like view the page, right? And then there's the percentage of those that actually click install, and then there's a percentage of those that actually open the app and keep coming back and that kind of stuff, right? So I guess what I'm trying to ask is that a good way to, to almost like that funnel based approach of like, because I think a lot of times when people are starting out and they're like getting something like, man, I only got like 2 new signups this week, or like I got, like something small and I don't know how to get a lot of traction with this kind of thing. Like, is there certain stats that people should pay attention to that maybe they aren't? And are there, and vice versa, are there ones that they pay attention to that they shouldn't be? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep. So I think what you mentioned is generally like how I would summarize as like a pure product-led growth, where basically your product serve as like main driver of user acquisition, conversion, engagement, and retention. So this is how I see like a user journey. Um, so when I say that, it's basically exactly what you mentioned, right? Like, okay, how many people like, let's say for conversion, right? Let's start, that's like top of the funnel, like how many people maybe downloaded your app or like started a trial, and of those, like how many converted, and then once those who converted, how are they engaging with our app in terms of like using the app, and once they do that, like how are we able to like retain them over long term. So this is like a pure customer funnel journey that I analyze, like not just at Headspace but back also at Asana. This is exactly what I used to look at. And how like the org would get differentiated, whether they'll be like success or not in terms of like how their retention is. Like, so retention, people always think it's more like an input, but retention is actually like the output. You cannot just improve retention. It's not a right way to say. For to be able to improve retention, you need to first focus on activating your users to make sure that they experience that aha moment, and then how that aha moment lead to like more habit moment for them to be able to come back. And then once they have that, then how do you take the users to be able to come back over and over again? So once you work on like your activation and engagement, you will automatically like retain users over long term. So retention is what like differentiates like, you know, like from long term perspective, this is what like differentiates between an organization where like you have like you could be like 100 million ARR in like first few months, but of those like how many were you able to like actually retain for like 2 year 3 year period, right? So that's why you would also see like, especially for software companies, you would see like net retention and gross retention. It's like primary, they report on that number in their earnings call because that's their bread and butter in terms of like to be able to make sure that they are able to retain their customers that they already have.
Yeah. I mean, you hear a lot about this anymore around like SaaS is dead. They're calling it the SaaS apocalypse,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm sure you've heard about all
Yep.
this stuff. Or, um, do you buy into all that? Do you still think that there's room for these kinds of things, or are we in the middle of what they're actually talking about?
I think some of it is just driven by hype versus the actual reality. And the reason I say that is just because those companies have been there for a really long time, right? It's not that like, okay, you can build another DocuSign or you can build another service now overnight, right? It needs like user adoption. It needs like a lot of integrations to work and to be able to like, solve the problem that they were built for, right? So like over time, yes, they may get to it like slowly, but I think in the current state, I think it's like a combination of hype versus like how all the sentiments, like, you have like that constant fear that AI is going to disrupt. But hopefully we'll get away with that in terms of just like people realize the value of it, like in terms of like, I'm not saying that AI is like not useful. I'm just saying like, yes, there's a part of it where, it makes your life easier in terms of doing certain things, but also like for AI to be able to disrupt all these big companies, I think we still have like long term to go because it's not easy to like adopt things, right? And then with every new model, it gets easier and easier to build things, right? So I think that adoption and that being able to retain like the long term story and narrative, I think that's going to be crucial.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's a very good point. I was just talking about this the other day. I was a guest on a podcast, and we were talking
Oh,
about this around how um, there's just this explosion um, of people being able to build software now with these tools. I'm doing it myself. Other people are doing it. Like but again, like that, I'd be very interested to see what the data says about all this stuff in 3 years around things. I'd be very interested to see what I've often cited Lovable. They were the fastest tech startup in the history of the world. Right? They got to 100 million ARR in like 8 months or something like
yep,
stupidly fast.
yep.
But how many people are still there right today? How many will be there in 2 years? Because exactly what you're talking about is um, this world is becoming just so fast and so almost like I don't want to say cutthroat, but like it's dog eat dog right now. In Headspace is in a very competitive market. Asana was in a very competitive market. Like, is there a lot of pressure in those at those levels to really level things up fast?
Would say yes, because it's like constant, like even though internally when you think of you want to slow down, but there's also like you need to pace, you need to catch up with the market, right? So there's
Mm,
always that fear that, okay, um, A, what is the right time to catch up? And B, should we catch up or not, right? Like those are things. And with examples like Lovable and Emergent and all those things, there's also like certain part of it where they have like a first mover advantage. So it's like, um, it's being again able to like give you being adopt and then like building. I want to make sure that like when we use AI, we try to build or solve for some problem rather than just building for the things of building, right?
mhm,
um I know like Alina from who heads growth at Lovable, she had a famous quote that AI is not like artificial intelligence, like average intelligence. uh like it's
mhm,
just more like using, think of it like in your average, like a companion, right? Not just like trying to take control over you. uh, and I think you'll be fine. And like in terms of just like, because there's still those like critical thinking, your communication, that's totally on you. AI cannot just like, you cannot just put chip inside you and make you a better communicator, right? It's you who have to do that. So I think some of those skill sets are still going to be more relevant. Yes, technical skills are definitely like, you just give a prompt and you'll have all the code ready. But that's how I think about this entire current state of things.
mm. Yeah, I like that. Average intelligence instead of
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. Who'd you say that was from? Someone at Lovable?
Yeah, Elena Verna. She's heading growth at Lovable.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, she's a
Nice.
very popular voice on PLG as well. Uh, I know her like because just like I used to take her cohort and things like that. So I
Okay.
know the sessions a lot.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm not sure if that was who I met somebody like that at an event here in Pittsburgh. It might have been her. Gosh, I
Um,
should really remember.
okay.
Um, I think it was the head of community instead of the head of growth.
Mm.
I can't remember. Now I feel bad. Hope you're not listening. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Well, before we wrap up, do you have anything else we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about? To maybe a little inside scoop at Headspace, like what's coming next, like what are different things? I don't know, whatever you want to add. Just anything else before we wrap up at all.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of topics, so I think we're in a good shape. And yeah, there'll be like a lot of things to come, and until they get public, it's very hard for me to share that right now. But
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Yeah. I get you. I get you. I'm still gonna ask. I got to play the reporter kind of thing, you know. I know I might not get an answer, but I'm gonna ask. So, um, anyway, all right. So, if we want to connect with you, where can we go? Where can we find more?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so linkedin.com/Kuber Jain. That's the best way for me to connect, get
Okay.
connected to. Yep.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, guys. So we'll put his LinkedIn in the show notes. Go over, connect with him. Great conversation. I really enjoyed, digging into this. And if you guys are not already using Headspace, I would definitely recommend you go do that. I don't even have an affiliate link, which I probably should. But I just like to promote stuff that I believe in, and I've used it, and I'm like you said, I don't know if I'd call myself a power user. I mean, there are times where I don't use it for a little while. I'll be honest. But I use it all the time. Like when I'm sitting here working, doing deep work, I got, Claude Code going or something. I'm just like, put on some Headspace, baby. Let's rock and roll. So maybe just customer feedback directly from you. I like the techno beats. I like the focus beats. Those are when I saw
Mm,
they had focus
ni-
beats, I was like, hell yeah, that's my jam.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
there's your data
All you
point.
need is just a motivation. You're right
Yes.
there.
Yep, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, uh, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Daphne.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys, that is all for this episode. I appreciate all of you joining and listening in. Hope you learned something. Hope you got something out of it. And if you want to connect with him, go click on the link below and you can go connect with Bear on LinkedIn as well. All right, guys, like, subscribe, and follow the show. Appreciate all of you, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bites, your go-to show for software business and technology. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with our latest episodes, insights, and stories. Hungry for more? Dive deeper into the world of no-code by visiting dapanacode.com. Your journey to building amazing software without coding skills starts there. Connect with like-minded creators and unlock a world of resources tailored just for you. Subscribe now. Explore Dapper No